cozy games. To be more specific, non-farming cozy games. Because sometimes you just want to relax and maybe waking up before the sunrise, throwing on your overalls, digging in the dirt all morning, and then running all the way to Robin's house to get some work done only to realize she's not home again. Why is Robin never home? I need a damn horse stable. I'm tired of walking everywhere. Sorry. I have some unresolved trauma I'm still working through, apparently. The point is, sometimes you don't want to farm, and there are a lot of incredibly cozy games that don't require you to touch a hoe. And that's what we're here to check. Are you laughing because I said hoe? Really? What if I say poop? You gonna laugh at that too? Grow up, Jeff. As I was saying, that's what we're here to check out today. I played 20 non-farming cozy games for 2 hours each to find the best ones. A few quick things before we get started. I've made several of these videos now, and a few of them, like Cozy Games Part 1, where I focused more on the Stardew Valley type games, as well as several others, feature quite a few games you could classify as cozy. I'll have the playlist linked below if you want to check it out and see if you find anything else you like. I think I found more games in this video that I loved that I'd never heard of before than I have in any other video by far. There's so much quality in this one. I actually found my favorite game of the year making this video, so I'm confident you'll be able to find something new to check out, or hopefully at the very least get the nudge you needed to try something you've had your eye on. One last thing, I just want to thank everybody that subscribed to the channel in the last couple of months and for the overwhelming amount of positive feedback and engagement with my content. The channel's been growing insanely fast lately and it just continues to snowball, and the support you all have shown me genuinely means more than I can make you understand. And I just really appreciate you guys for being a part of this. All that being said, my name is Chad, not really, and welcome to a twinge of non-farming cozy games. We'll kick it off with Unpacking. This is a really neat and very relaxing little game with a lot more beneath the surface than you might think. The general gameplay is simply just unpacking boxes, as the name would suggest, but you'll quickly pick up on the fact that the game is telling you a story about a person's life, and the more you want to pay attention to that, the more of the story you open yourself up to being told. And it's a really creative way to do it. You will learn so much about this little girl, at least that's my takeaway. Perhaps you'll interpret it differently, but you'll learn not only the obvious things like when she moved and how much stuff she has, but you'll start to get an idea of her hobbies and what's important to her and what she's been through on her journey to adulthood, and by the end it somehow has told you such a detailed story without ever saying a word. It's a very relaxing play. There are no time limits or objectives other than getting everything unpacked and off the floor, basically. Some things you can put on the floor, but you get what I'm saying. You can't just dump a box out on the bed and move on to the next level. It starts off very simple, but as she grows up, her homes get bigger and her spaces get more interesting and she has more things for you to figure out. There's so much more I want to say about the story, but I really don't want to take away from the experience. But the nuance sometimes really blew me away. It's really just a brilliantly told story and a really beautiful little game. The music is nice and deliberate for each phase of the game, and you have very nearly infinite freedom to do as you please. Things like hanging certain clothes up or folding them, hanging pots or dish towels in certain spots, how each room is arranged sometimes even beyond the things you originally unpacked. You can really do as you please here. Some items are interactive as well, so be sure to explore that. There are also stickers you can collect for each stage by finding a specific action or arrangement or something, and those are fun to search for. I think the art style is really nice, and everything about the game comes together in a very nice, relaxing way, and I really enjoyed it. It's not a very long game, but I think the experience is one very much worth having, and I'd say there is significant replayability here. Whether you want to fully engage with the game, giving it your full attention and listening to its music, or mute it and just relax and play while you listen to your own music or a podcast or more of my videos, Unpacking is a wonderful little game that I definitely think is worth a look if you haven't played it yet. Next we have Tiny Glade, and I was really excited to play this one. It's one that's been on my radar for a while and it did not disappoint. There's no stress at all here, unless you're susceptible to being stressed out about not having any idea what you want to build. There's no resource gathering or currencies or management of any kind. From the moment you launch the game, you're free to just build as you see fit, and I was really impressed with the way it plays. Whatever you're building will automatically adjust depending on where you're putting it, what other buildings it's interacting with, the terrain, and anything else that's going on. As easy as it is to get started and navigate the controls, I do think there will probably be levels to this in the sense that there are a lot of different ways to manipulate the tools to achieve something that wasn't necessarily supposed to be achievable with them. And I don't mean glitching the game out or anything, but like here I wanted a particular type of stone bridge, and there doesn't seem to be a bridge tool at all in the game. I decided to play around with the stair tool and was able to sort of get something similar to what I had in mind. I couldn't add the features I wanted, but I later learned that what looks to be just the paint tool is really more of an overall visual aesthetic tool, as it can add railings to stairs, change the type of roof overhang you're working with, change the texture of your walls, and plenty more. There are lots of cute little animals wandering around, and clicking them is equivalent to petting them, and if you know anything about me, you know I'm happy with that. It's also just really pretty. They did a good job with the style here, as it's even visually relaxing. I decided to keep the build small and just do a tiny little cabin in the woods woods type thing and focus in on the details of the build and see what I could accomplish. I think it turned out nicely, and I had about a half an hour left, so I decided to explore a little more of what the game had to offer. I played around a little with the camera tool. If you wanted to take the time to learn the ins and outs of that, you could definitely take some really amazing pictures of your builds. Then I thought I'd play around with the building tools a bit to see what it would look like with some bigger buildings. And then I had the idea to see if I could build a gazebo, which as you can see was a success. I'm really interested in seeing what other people have accomplished with this game. I bet there are some incredible builds out there. This game is basically exactly what you think it is, but better. It's a zero pressure game that's very easy to relax and enjoy, with some really impressive mechanics and tons of potential depending on how well you want to learn all the ins and outs of everything. I'd say Tiny Glade is absolutely worth a play. Up next we have The Spirit and the Mouse, and what a wonderful little game this is. I am in love with everything about this game. It's such a heartwarming experience. I'm sure I'm biased to a degree here, as I have pet rats that I love more than anything in the world, but even aside from that, I really think this is a special game. You hear the phrase hidden gem tossed around a lot, sometimes perhaps a little too frivolously, but it's games like this that really deserve the title in my opinion. It's a bit of a story-driven platformer slash puzzle game with a lot of exploration and things to collect. You play as this little mouse named Lila, who's very concerned with the happiness of the people in this little French village. I really want to avoid any form of spoilers here, so I'm going to be kind of vague about the details, but again, you're this little mouse on her mission to help bring some happiness to the people in this village, and you'll be getting some assistance throughout the journey and gaining new abilities as you go. While there is some platforming and puzzle solving, none of it was remotely stressful or frustrating at any point. There are no enemies, there's no dying or taking damage, and while it's very interesting and engaging, I wouldn't call it challenging at all. So don't worry at all about whether or not you'd be signing up for something that might potentially aggravate you or anything like that. The game feels very well polished, it plays perfectly, it's very smooth and intuitive, there aren't a ton of controls, but again, enough to make it interesting. You'll fall in love with Lila pretty quick, and honestly, most of the other characters you encounter are really charming and cute and surprisingly funny. I laughed out loud more than once in my 2 hours. The people of the town also seem nice, so you feel good about wanting to help them. So far, this doesn't seem to be a thing where the people hate rodents and you have to help them in spite of themselves or anything. They all seem totally unaware you even exist. There's a currency of sorts in the form of energy, but it's not finite. You collect it from random items around the map, but anytime you leave an area, all those items seem to reset, so there won't really ever be a bottleneck or anything. As long as you're mildly conscious of collecting them as you run past stuff, you'll be fine. The finite items are these little blue light bulbs, so that's something that if you like the idea of finding all of the collectibles is here for you to do, with its own little storyline and shop associated with them for you to buy maps and upgrades and stuff. There's truly not a single thing I don't like about this game. I think it's really pretty, it's very relaxing and easy to play, but still engaging. I love Lila and all the other little characters, the story's fun, and it's just overflowing with charm. I'd never heard of it before making this video, but The Spirit and the Mouse turned out to be one of my favorite games of this whole year. Not my favorite game of the year, that one's coming later in the video. I will absolutely continue playing it, and I highly recommend everyone else try it out as well. Moving along, we have Townscaper, another incredibly simple game in function, and it's cute. It's got a nice little style to it, almost looks hand-drawn at times, and there's not even a menu or anything. You just launch the game and start clicking. There aren't even any building tools. You literally just choose which color you want to build with, left-click places an object, right-click deletes it, and you just do your thing. Everything you build automatically adjusts depending on what you build around it and what it's connected to. So you can build skyscrapers or one-level homes or walkways and bridges, apartment complexes with gardens in the middle, and so on. It's one of the simpler games in a mechanical sense I think you could ever play, but there are some little tricks you can do to make things look certain ways. It is cozy, but this one didn't quite hold my attention the same way Tiny Glade did. There's nothing really wrong with it, but there were times where the weird shapes of the grid sort of kept me from doing what I wanted to do, or sometimes trying to get a roof to finish itself off instead of making a flat top or a balcony. None of it was really a huge deal, but there were a lot of compromises made. I think this one comes down to simplicity. If you're looking for something that really doesn't require much of you, but still gives you some space to create some cool looking things, this is a good one for that. I think it's on mobile as well, which is good because I was going to say I think it would make a better mobile game. Could be a nice way to kill some time on the train or something. There isn't a ton more to say about it. It's a very inexpensive game, so there's low risk to check it out if it looks interesting to you. I have no real reason not to recommend Townscaper. Again, there's nothing wrong with it at all. There are just other games with a similar concept that I like a lot better. Next, we have Islanders, and this one's pretty cool. It's got a bit more challenge to it than most of what's in this video, but nothing about it is really stressful at all. It will generate a random island for you, and you start by choosing one of two building packs of sorts. The more you play, the more you'll get a better idea of which packs are better for which types of islands. Basically, you're trying to place these buildings down in a way that generates the most points, so that you can hit the threshold to be able to select a second pack. And then that continues until you generate enough points to complete the island and move on to the next randomly generated island. That's typically a little bigger and presents some new challenges. Certain buildings positively or negatively affect others, and you'll figure all of that out the longer you play as well. None of it's very difficult to pick up on, but after the first few islands, you really will need to be as efficient as possible because it does start getting difficult to progress. If at any point you've placed all your buildings and not hit the point threshold, the run is over. There's also a sandbox mode that I tried to dabble in, but just couldn't get into it. The buildings get a little more complex the deeper into the run you get, and again, it does start getting pretty difficult once you're 4 or 5 maps in. It's got a neat little style to it, everything plays pretty smoothly, it's all intuitive, it's fine. One thing that could potentially get get you hooked is that it tells you your rank against other players. So any of you that have a competitive streak might really get into it for that reason. This is another game that I personally would not really sit down and dedicate much time to, but if I had it on my phone or a handheld, would definitely play it in situations where I needed to kill a little time. I enjoyed it enough, and if you like the idea of what I described, then you'll probably like Islanders. But I also want to say that if you like the idea of this, there's a game coming up later in the video called Dorfromantik that scratches a similar itch, but in a much better way in my opinion. So make sure you see that review before you make any decisions. Next is Small Spaces, and this is a really cool, well-made game. It looks really nice, and I like a lot of the way they deliver it. There's a bit of a progression system here with you starting out in a small New York City apartment and progressing through different and bigger spaces in different parts of the world. Each region seems to have multiple spaces for you to work with, as well as different difficulties which seem to present their own items and sets of requirements. With each stage, you're given the option to design or unpack. If you choose design, it's totally up to you what you use and where, and you're given a light checklist of things to make sure you do depending on the resident. Each resident comes with their own little story of sorts just to give you an idea of who you're designing for and some things about them for you to consider. It's a cute idea. You can also just go with the unpacking option, which will have you working with what their belongings were that they moved in with. There's a grid option that you can turn on and the game will tell you where each item goes, but I also think if you wanted to, you could still design everything the way you wanted to. It might not sound like the grid option would be very fun or engaging, but I actually enjoyed it. And I think in some ways it's the coziest option in the game. It still gives you something to do and you get to see everything come together as you go, which is satisfying. And you'll sort of learn a little bit as you go. As someone who does not have an eye at all for interior design, I found that really helpful. And I think if I continue to play it this way for a while, I'd eventually feel much more comfortable being dropped into a completely empty space and working with it. For my last hour or so, I worked on this Williamsburg apartment. You can get an idea of what I was saying about not having an eye for interior design here. It's not awful or anything, but I'm sure there are better ways to do this. One thing I really appreciated here is just how many pieces there are for you to work with. Aside from all the obvious things you'd expect, there are a lot of smaller items and clutter pieces and just a bunch of little elements that you can use to really make it look like a place someone actually lives in. You can also change the colors of most items, change their sizes, rotate freely. You can have snapping on or off. And you're also free to place items clipped into other items, which tends to really lend itself to some creative outcomes. There's also a shop for you to buy more building pieces from, with plenty in it for you to work toward over time, and once you have everything available, it seems like you'd be hard-pressed to want for anything. There really is a lot here. Not only can you work with the design and layout of the items in each space, but you seem to be able to also change the actual floor plan. I didn't mess with it, but I did choose the hard difficulty on the same Williamsburg space just to unpack in, and it had been very clearly modified from its original layout. So you really can pretty much do anything you want to do here, especially once you unlock all the spaces. I only have a few mild gripes, none of which would even come close to being deal breakers, but I'll mention them. The camera movement can be a little wonky at times. You'll get used to it for the most part, but every now and then it's kind of annoying. You hold right click to rotate the camera, but right click is also cancel if you're holding an item. So if you need to rotate the camera while holding an item and you don't rotate it enough, you're going to cancel holding the item and have to go back to the box and pick it up, which is not incredibly uncommon in these kinds of games. But here I feel like the window for this being possible is a little bit too big, and I personally think that if the camera moves at all, you just shouldn't drop the item. I'd also like a few more controls added, something like holding shift forcing an item to be flush with a wall, or holding control not letting something snap. Stuff like that would be a huge help. I honestly wouldn't hate them adding Planet Zoo style movement where you can hit X or something and bring up axis controls to do very precise movements. Again, none of this is a huge deal. The game still plays fine overall. And in time, I'd probably develop muscle memory for the right clicking thing and it would happen less and less. It's an early access game, but the developers are exceptionally active, with several hot fixes and patches happening every month, as well as very regular larger updates that add to the game substantially, and also holiday events and stuff. I definitely recommend Small Spaces. I think it's an excellent game and it's very much what it appears to be, so there's really no gamble here. If the idea of a game like this appeals to you, this is the best version of it I've played. I'll also add, if you liked Unpacking and want something with a lot more going on, or even liked the idea of Unpacking but want something with a bit more of a realistic aesthetic, you will definitely like Small Spaces. Next is Teddy's Haven, and I really loved this game. It could have easily gone in my video about simulator games, but I'm glad it didn't because it definitely belongs here. If you played something like Supermarket Sim or Bookshop Sim, this will feel very familiar in many ways, minus anything about those games that typically makes them stressful. This is a very cute, relaxing little shop sim with a heavy emphasis on magic and coziness. And they're really doing everything right. The shop management mechanics are great, definitely good enough to get you hooked on that gameplay loop alone, but the rest of the game is really interesting so far. Like, even if this was only the shop management stuff, I'd still have enjoyed it, but the fact there's so much world to explore, with all the little random events that happen and things to discover and just so much to interact with, it really makes this a fantastic game. The world is very chill and easygoing, there's no combat or danger, nothing is afraid of you, and nothing that you collect collect from any of the animals in any way implies any damage being done or anything. It's always referred to as tending to whichever animal you're getting a resource from. You have a variety of skills like bagging, stocking, mining, harvesting, tending, and so on, and they level up the more you do them rather than having to allocate points, which I'm always a huge fan of. I'll take skills that level up based on my activity over skills I have to allocate 10 times out of 10. There is a lot of shop to grow into, as well as items to unlock so that you can stock them, and there's also what appears to be a decently hefty crafting system. You can start exploring whenever you like. Again, there's never any real pressure here, but I preferred to get a cashier hired before I began doing that, and all over the world there are tons of materials to collect, which are usually part of some sort of crafting process. There will be several types of berries you can turn into jam, for example, and start selling them, which will bring you way more profit than buying things and trying to turn them for a profit. It's really nice because you can focus on whatever is the most fun or interesting for you and still make progress. While there is plenty of content here and a lot to unlock and progress into, it doesn't feel as much like a grind as it tends to in many other simulator style games. Don't get me wrong, I love a good grind. I'm not saying a grind is a bad thing, but they've really managed to deliver a familiar experience here without it feeling super imposing or anything like that. It's very clever. I'd say I'm perhaps more interested in making progress here than I have been in any other simulator game I've played. They really do a good job early on of giving you glimpses of things going on in the world, and as you explore, you'll find locations to build different things and potentially unlock more of the map. I'm also just interested in seeing what other kinds of items there are to sell, what happens when I get further into crafting things, and what the shop looks like as it expands. If you're someone who likes the idea of simulator games but tends to find them a little too hectic or stressful, this was made specifically for you. This is a much calmer, cozy, charming version of one of those that seems to have had a lot of love put into it, and one I will definitely continue to play. I absolutely recommend everybody check out Teddy's Haven. It's a fantastic game. Moving on, we have a little to the left, and it's a bit of a cozy puzzle game. It's got a cool aesthetic to it, and it's fairly easy to get rolling. The puzzles start out pretty simple and ramp up a bit as you go, as one would expect. Sometimes it's as simple as just organizing everything on the screen. Sometimes it's a bit more of a riddle, and sometimes there are multiple puzzles to solve in one to actually complete it. And some of them have potential to stump you for a bit, which is a good thing in my opinion. If you could just breeze through all of them, that would be a lot less interesting. One cool feature is that some stages have multiple solutions, so for any completionist out there, this will definitely scratch that itch. It also has a daily tidy, which is just a daily puzzle to solve, and it tracks your streak with little things to collect from there as you go as well. You can also miss a day without resetting the streak, which is nice. I got about halfway through the game in my 2 hours, or at least halfway through the stages. I can only assume my pace would have continued to slow a bit as I progressed through the later stages. And then of course there's always coming back to find the extra solution or solutions in some cases. I might be dating myself here, but in the earlier levels when it was easy to solve them quickly, it very loosely reminded me of WarioWare in the sense that you just very briefly have this puzzle to solve and then it just sort of seamlessly transitions to the next. I'd say there's a decent bit of content here as well as some DLC that I believe adds 25 stages. There might be more DLC even. It's relatively stress-free, although there will occasionally be some interference. It would be such a mild spoiler for me to tell you what that is, but I also want to just let you experience it on your own, so I'm not going to say what it is. This one was fine for me. It's not something I'm going to play again, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think for the amount of content here, I'd probably recommend waiting for it to go on sale, but someone else who's more into these games might tell you it's more than worth the price. I don't think it's a ripoff at full price or anything, to be clear. I just kind of feel like it's easy to spend far less money on far more game. This is why I tend to not say much about the prices of games in my videos though, as what they're worth is ultimately very subjective. A Little to the Left is a well-made game. It's exactly what you think it is, and if you want more content, there's DLC, as well as the daily puzzle for anyone that plays it long term. If you're into this kind of thing, I see no reason you wouldn't thoroughly enjoy it. Next is Little Witch in the Woods, and it's pretty cute. It's got quite a bit of active gameplay for anyone that's looking for something a little more similar to the typical cozy farming sim style game minus the farming. It's very heavy into exploration and gathering, and using what you've gathered to craft a variety of things that will help you continue to progress. This game is very dialogue heavy, and it does seem fairly important that you read the dialogue, because there are times it will give you more specific instructions than your quest log will, and remembering what someone said to you will make your life a lot easier. The game also has a pretty long intro, so just be aware. That's not a criticism to be clear, but I think it's important to know that it's going to be a little bit before you actively get into any real gameplay. As for the dialogue, it's good. I like all the characters I've been introduced to so far. Everyone definitely has their own distinct personalities and stuff. I actually laughed quite a few times while playing. There was a time or two where I did kind of wish everyone would just shut up and let me play, but it wasn't a huge deal. And again, the dialogue was generally good, which helps a ton. The game itself is very cute and easygoing. There doesn't seem to be any combat or any real threats, and you don't seem to be a threat to anything else either. Some things are more challenging than others to gather, as they'll involve chasing things around or using certain potions, and probably a lot more the longer you play. There are little mini games for crafting your potions and candies, and at a certain point you'll be able to just auto-craft them. You also have this encyclopedia to fill up with information through a variety of ways, one of which is by drawing different items and creatures with your quill. Once you've done that, you'll unlock more challenges associated with whatever the entry is, like collecting certain numbers within a time limit, or just specific things like that. You can also draw stuff multiple times for additional progress, but each time you draw something, it goes on cooldown and can't be drawn again for a while. The game itself feels very polished and like a lot of time went into it. It plays well and the systems all seem very deep. A ton of thought and attention seems to have gone into the story and the characters themselves. And it's just a really lovely little game all around. If you're looking for something a bit more active to get invested in without anything to overwhelm you or stress you out, Little Witch in the Woods is definitely one worth a play. Up next is Tiny Bookshop, and it's a really nice game. It offers just enough of a challenge to engage you, but it does it in such a way that doesn't pressure you into feeling like you have to be challenged if you don't want to be. The game gets you started immediately, walking you through a tutorial that explains itself very well and allows you to move forward at a nice pace. It's not as much of a shop simulator as you might be expecting if you've played anything else from that genre, and while there is a bit of management here, it's not stressful or overwhelming in any way. You're basically just keeping an inventory of books across 7 different genres, at least early on. I don't know if there are more genres later on, but for my 2 hours there were 7. You can purchase more books for your inventory from the newspaper each day between the times that you have your shop set up. And sometimes you can just buy a box of random books from random genres, and sometimes they're a little more pointed. So if you're noticing the inventory for a particular genre is low, you can keep an eye out for boxes focusing on that one. There is a lot of decorating involved here and plenty of items to do it with. And while it's a pretty simple system to navigate, there's quite a bit going on with it. You can decorate inside or outside your shop. Some items hang, some go on walls. I got this table at one point and then was able to put a typewriter I got later on it, so some items interact with other items in that way. You're free to paint your shop however you like, and there are more colors to be unlocked as you play. The game looks really nice. I really like how each scene almost looks like a painting, while your shop and car almost look hand-drawn. It's really clever how it sticks out so much and blends in so well at the same time. You'll have interactions with many of the townspeople, sometimes resulting in quests to complete for them. You can look around each area and find little decorations to collect and other things to interact with. I think my favorite thing about the game is that several times a day a customer will ask you for a recommendation. They'll describe to you what kinds of books they tend to like and sometimes even tell you their favorite book or a book comparable to what they're looking for, and then you can search through your current inventory of books to find something you think they'd like. And that's when you learn that your inventory is actually made up of real books. You'll see all these recognizable titles with quick descriptions of what they're about, and it's really satisfying when you make a perfect recommendation. Sometimes it's pretty difficult. I made a lot of bad recommendations, but there doesn't really seem to be any punishment for that, or even just ignoring the request for a recommendation altogether if you don't want to deal with it. There are lots of different stages to visit with their own customers and things to see and do, and it really does a good job of scratching the itches for things like collecting stuff, achieving goals, and getting to decorate as much as you like. It's a really excellent game. It seems like it's exactly what they wanted it to be. I think Tiny Bookshop is one that anyone who clicked on a video about cozy games needs to try if you haven't already. It will definitely give you what you're looking for. Highly recommend. Moving on, we have Cast and Chill, and they really nailed it with the name here. That's precisely what this game is. If you saw my video on idle games, I covered a fishing idle game that I really didn't care for and made an offhanded comment about looking into making an idle fishing game of my own, and this is much more along the lines of what I had in mind. I say that because while you can 100% actively play this game, it has an idle mode that I really enjoyed. So let's just get into the details of it all. We'll start with the style. This game has some beautiful pixel art. All of the scenes I saw were just gorgeous. It's very serene and calm, and the way the water moves is really nice. The sound design is great. Just a really pretty game all around. When you launch the game, you'll cycle through different versions of your character to find one you like, and then do the same with your dog, and then you push out and begin fishing. It's a very quick, simple tutorial to get you going, and then you get to figure out the rest as you play. From there, you're just relaxing and fishing. You'll learn that there's a book that keeps up with which fish you've discovered, which ones you've caught, your catch record, stuff like that, and there are plenty of fish to find and catch. It won't take long before you reach the limit for fish you can hold on this boat, and you'll have to head back to the dock where you'll find the shop. Here, you can buy new lures, rods, boats, and licenses, as well as upgrade your current gear and boats, allowing you to handle bigger and new fish. It's all pretty straightforward, and you'll find yourself itching to make progress to get to the nicer stuff. The fishing is nice. It's easy enough to understand and pick up on in the very early stages, but it won't take long for you to hit a point where you find out it can get a little more challenging, with fish resisting more and being capable of getting away, as well as just being too big for your gear to handle. The idle mode is really nice. Basically, you just head to whichever location on the map you like, and then turn on idle mode and your character will take over, heading to whichever spot on the water they see fit at that moment, using the equipment they prefer, and fishing. They seem to prioritize catching new fish as well, as I was able to complete the first location on idle mode. I don't know if that's true, but that's how it seemed. Once your boat is full, they'll head back to the dock, sell them, and head back out. It's very simple, easy to manage, and if you're looking for a nice, easy, well-paced fishing game, this one's really good. I'd recommend this one for sure, as it's very relaxing and easy to play, and you can be as active or passive as you like. It's almost like a nice, chill fishing game and a full-fledged fishing idle game in one, all depending on how you want to play it, and switching between the two is seamless. Cast and Chill did not disappoint at all, and if anything you've seen here does anything for you, you'll surely be happy with this one. Next is Sticky Business, and here you run a little online shop where you create and sell stickers, and it's pretty fun. It's not super heavy on the shop sim mechanics or anything. It's pretty easygoing and manageable. The big thing here is the creation of the stickers, and your only real limit here is your imagination. The tools for making stickers are pretty good, and there's plenty to unlock as you play. The general gameplay loop, aside from creating stickers, is waking up every day, filling orders, and shipping them. The order packing screen will simply show you the quantity of each sticker the customer wants. Then you fill the box with whatever other little decorations and features you like. And then once they're filled, shipping is as simple as clicking a button. You'll need to print sticker sheets to keep them in stock, and everything you do makes a little time pass. Once the meter fills up, the day is over and you'll have to go to sleep. You earn coins to buy things like more slots in your shop for more stickers, as well as more decorative items for the packages you'll be shipping. And then you'll earn these little hearts that you'll spend on new stickers to work with, as well as different colors to use or outlines or stickers you can actually change the colors of. It's a really cute, easy to play little game that gives you just enough tasks to do and things to unlock that you feel compelled to keep going. And there's really no pressure to keep making stickers from what I can tell. Seems like you can work with as few or as many as you like and still be fine. I had a good time playing it, but it's not something I'd personally continue playing, I don't think. That being said, I did have a good time making these stickers, and I do think it's an excellent game. It's very well made, and I didn't really have any issues or anything that I disliked in my 2 hours. I'm just simply not the target audience for this one. One thing I noticed is that you can actually save your designs externally, so if you wanted to actually make your own stickers, you could use this game to design them, and I think that's really cool. All in all, it's just a really easygoing little game that lets you be creative and gives you some very light online store management tasks and progression goals in the form of things to unlock that in turn let you expand your creative options. I'd definitely recommend Sticky Business to anyone that likes the idea of something like this. There's really nothing to dislike about it if it's your kind of game. Next is Whisper of the House, and this ended up being another one of my favorites from the video. I had a blast with this one. I didn't even realize, but I played this for 2 hours and 10 minutes because I was so caught up in what I was doing I forgot to look at the time. It's a lot like Unpacking, but with an actual character and world to explore and play in. You move to this new town and the residents will ask you to come do a variety of things, typically revolving around arranging things or cleaning up, and it's just really fun and satisfying. It controls very well, and there are a lot of different ways to play, and many items can be placed on flat surfaces or on walls. You can rotate items as they are and sometimes change their orientation. So like I was able to turn this skateboard vertical and hang it on the wall. One of the jobs I went to do was with someone who already knew where she wanted everything to go. She just wanted me to unpack it and set it up, and I also really enjoyed that. The world is really cool, and it seems very busy and full of secrets to discover and things to collect and hidden areas to find. You'll experience a lot of that in the middle of actual jobs as well. It just seems jam-packed with stuff like that. You also have your home that you unpack and organize to sort of get used to the game, and as you play you'll find items and get sent gifts from people you've helped to add things to your home as you see fit. The game is easy to navigate and work with, and as far as I know there are no time limits or anything. Some areas even seem like they have riddles to solve. Like this one had a cauldron, and many of the things you could pick up in this room had an interaction with it. In this bar you can pick up all the different ingredients and put them in this mixer and make cocktails, and I'd assume you'd get something if you figured out which one it wanted you to make. I feel like I only scratched the surface here in more ways than one. They really do seem to have leaned heavy into the secret areas and items and riddles, and it just seems like there's so much game here. As you run around the world, there's plenty to clean, vouchers to discover, people to talk to, and nearly everything appears to have some sort of interaction. I also really like the style. They really spend a lot of time focusing on the details with this one. You're also able to pet the animals, so GG's there. I'd never heard of this game before this video, but I'm highly likely to continue playing it. Of all of the unpacking style games in this video, this is definitely my favorite one. I had a really good time here, and if you're into this kind of thing and haven't played Whisper of the House, I absolutely recommend giving it a try. Next is Coffee Talk, another one that is very different from things I would normally play, and probably would not have played if not for this video, but had a shockingly good time with. This is very much a story game. There is very little actual gameplay, but I really liked it. You run a coffee shop in Seattle that only opens during the middle of the night for reasons I'll let you find out on your own. This game takes place on Earth, but in a different version of Earth where not only are there humans, but elves, orcs, vampires, and lots more. Customers will come in and order drinks and sometimes sit and chat with you and usually your regular Freya, and the game is very much just listening to these people's stories and what's going on in their lives and watching as they get to know each other and you. The drink making minigame is really interesting for what it is, and the longer the game goes on, the more ingredients you have available. You already know how to make a few things, but you'll have to discover new recipes by testing or by listening to what people want in their drinks and trying things out. Sometimes they'll tell you specifically what they want, and other times they'll just sort of tell you what they like, and it's up to you to try to make something they'll enjoy. This is a game that relies very much on the writing, as it's almost like watching a play. You don't choose dialogue options or anything. The only time you do anything that has any impact at all is make drinks. If you've never played anything like this, it might not sound very interesting, and again, I'd almost certainly have never played it if not for trying to branch out and try a wide variety of games for this video, but I'll honestly probably go back and finish this game. It's really well written, the characters are all interesting, and I actually want to know what happens with everybody. The art's really well done, the vibes are immaculate, and everything about this game is just really polished and well put together. The soundtrack is also really good. For most of the games in this video, I'll play them with the sound on for a bit to get an idea of how the sound design and music and everything is done, just in case there's anything worth mentioning, and then I tend to mute them and put on a YouTube video. And I didn't even realize it until my 2 hours was up, but I never felt compelled to do that here. The music just sort of fits the vibe so well, I never felt the need to change anything. There are mods in the Steam Workshop that add voice lines to everyone in the game, so if this seems like more reading than you want to do, that's also an option. Seems to have pretty good mod support all around, so after I finish it, I might look into the mods a bit more and see what all's here. There's also a second episode of the game that has great reviews, so if you try this out and end up liking it, there's plenty more. I definitely recommend Coffee Talk. It's a good one to try if this type of game is new to you, and if you already play these types of games and haven't tried this one, I reckon you should fix that as soon as possible. Quick additional note here, I did go back and finish the game, and it was great. I recommend it even more now. Next, we have Dorfromantik. It's a cozy little city builder of sorts, and perhaps one of its simplest forms anyway. You have a stack of tiles to play, and your goal is to keep building as long as possible. You have a finite amount of tiles, but completing certain challenges as you play will add more tiles to your stack, and you generate points depending on how you place them. Connecting trees to other trees, fields to other fields, and so on will generate bonus points. So the longer you play, the more you'll pick up on better habits that will set you up for success as you keep going. You can get a perfect placement by having all 6 sides of a tile match the tiles connected to them. It's really neat how the scene just sort of comes together as you go. There are new tiles to unlock as you go as well, so the more you play, the more interesting your scenes can get. It's simple enough to pick up on and get rolling with the basics, but I'd imagine the people who've been playing this for a while can really build some amazing things. I think my best run was around 6,500 points, and the people high up on the leaderboards are scoring millions. This feels like a really nice little wind-down game for the evenings, especially if you enjoy puzzles or light challenges. There's never any stress or pressure here. There's no time limit or anything. There's an undo button as well, so if you decide you've made a bad move, you're not stuck with it. It's got a really cute little art style to it, and there isn't a lot of fluff here. You launch the game and start placing tiles. Another really nice thing is that if you don't want any challenge and you just want to build, you can just play in creative mode. And if you play classic mode, when you eventually fail, it will allow you to continue in creative mode if you wanted to keep building on what you'd already done. It's all very seamless. There really isn't a ton else for me to say about this one, but Dorfromantik is a great little game. I'd say it's worth checking out. Next, we have Alba, a wildlife adventure. It's another very cute, easygoing game that has you playing as Alba, a little girl that loves animals, visiting her grandparents on an island with an old nature reserve. There's a little story to play through. I'll let you discover all that on your own. The whole game really just seems designed to make you feel good. It's very cozy and heartwarming. You have this little app on your phone that identifies wildlife you take pictures of, so one of your main goals is to log everything in that app. You'll also save animals from different situations, repair things on the island, help people with the occasional side mission. There's zero stress here. It's just a lighthearted little exploration game that any cozy game completionist will definitely get a kick out of. I really like the style of it. It plays great. I encountered no issues or bugs while I was playing. It's a relatively short game. I was very close to finishing everything at the end of my 2 hours, so I assume another 30 minutes, maybe an hour max for me to tie up all the loose ends would be plenty to 100% this one. You'll also learn a little bit about certain animals and maybe get a giggle. I'm apparently never going to outgrow thinking certain things are funny. This game really just feels like a little labor of love. I don't know the story behind it, but it feels very much like someone just wanted to make a sweet little game about something important to them, being wildlife conservation, and it's really nice. If you're looking for something to sink dozens of hours into, this might not be the one, but if you like the idea of a quick, cozy, cute little game that will give you the warm fuzzies, Alba, a wildlife adventure, is absolutely worth a play. Moving along, we have Cozy Grove, and this is a very interesting game, perhaps one of the more unique games in today's video, at least in concept. I also want to mention I actually didn't play this game for 2 hours. I played it for about an hour and 20 minutes, and this will make more sense soon. It'll play relatively familiar if you frequent cozy games. You are a spirit scout sent to Cozy Grove to try and help the spirits there remember themselves enough to find peace and move on. At least that's my understanding. When you first arrive, the scenery is a bit devoid of color, but as you help spirits and make progress, you'll restore some color and life to the island. There's exploring, fetch quests, things to discover, crafting, fishing, building, and quite a bit more going on here. Again, for the most part, it will all feel familiar if you play these types of games, but where it really stands out is that you'll notice the game seems to be running on the same clock you are in real life. I wandered around the island, helping everyone I found, gathering, doing all the things, and after about an hour, I went back to my campfire and it basically told me I was done for the day and to come back tomorrow and maybe there would be new spirits to help and more to do. It told me I was free to keep fishing or gathering or decorating, but there were no more quests today. And that was interesting because, as I'd mentioned, the game is running on real time. It's apparently designed to be played for a little bit every day rather than binged in long sessions. From what I gathered online, 30 to 60 minutes per day is what they had in mind when they made the game. I also noticed as I was closing the game, there's a winter festival during a given range of dates, so it actually just fully runs on a real-life calendar. And if you want to participate in the in-game events, you'll need to log in on the days they're happening. I think it's a really interesting concept, especially if you find yourself enjoying the game. I think this is a very important thing to know about this game going in, as some people are just born to binge, myself generally being one of those people. That being said, I really like the idea. Playing this game reminded me a lot of when I used to play Animal Crossing New Horizons on my Switch every night for 45 minutes to an hour when I got into bed. Seems like a great way to wind down, as the game is very relaxing and easy easy to play. Most of the quests I encountered were just search and gather style fetch quests. The game's really cute and easy to be in, the sound and music are great, and it's just a really nice little experience that very intentionally doesn't require much of your time. If not being able to binge this isn't a turnoff for you, then I'd certainly recommend it. If you're looking for a main game to get really invested in, this probably won't be it. But if you like the idea of adding something like this to your routine, and perhaps using it as a wind down game in the evenings, seeing as it literally won't let you get too invested to be able to stop playing, then Cozy Grove seems like a great one to consider. Next we have Beacon Pines, and man, where to start with this one? I am absolutely in love with this game. I was so excited to get to the end of the 2 hours to come write about it. I haven't been this engaged by a piece of media since season 1 of Stranger Things. This is just phenomenal. It's another very interesting way to present a game. It's in the context of reading a book, and your job as the player is to navigate through the story, and it's just so cool the way they do it. You'll find these charms, and at certain moments in the story called turning points, you'll be given the option to select a word to fill in a blank based on the charms you've discovered, and whichever word you choose will have a pretty dramatic impact on how the story continues. You also have this thing called the Chronicle that enables you to go back and visit turning points to try out different charms, because sometimes you'll find charms after certain points that you can then go back and use. It's just a brilliant idea, and even more brilliantly executed. That's one of the big things about this game for me. The execution here is through the roof in every single sense of the word. It just feels like a perfect game so far. I love the art. The writing is actually fantastic. I would honestly just read this book. The narrator does a wonderful job. She's such a spirited reader, and her voice just fits the tone of what's happening so perfectly. It's a great performance. The music in the game is incredible and always sets the mood perfectly. It's mechanically sound, it's very easy to play and navigate. Everything about it is just so good. I won't go into any detail at all about the story because I wouldn't dare risk ruining even a moment of it, but I can tell you it's wildly engaging. And if you're looking at this art style and thinking it's going to be geared more toward kids, it's not. It's not like crazy adult themed or anything, but it's definitely not made specifically for children. Again, I'm about as invested as I can be, and I'm honestly going to get right back to playing it when I finish writing this review. I want to talk a little more about the writing. It's so well paced and engaging, and it's really funny at times. I've literally laughed out loud a lot while I was playing this. I think this game had to have been written by a seasoned author or authors, and if that's not the case, they need to start writing, because oh my god, it's just so good. If you only play one game from this video, I think it should be this one. I didn't even know it existed before this video, and it's my favorite game of the year. I love it so much. I want to emphasize, even if I knew about this game, I'd have probably not played it because it just doesn't look like what I would historically go for. So if you're also in that boat, just take my word for it and give this game a shot. I actually can't wait to finish writing this so I can get back to it. So that's what I'm gonna do. If it's not painfully clear, I not only recommend Beacon Pines, but I implore everybody watching this to go pick it up and try it out. It's so different than anything else I've played, and it's just brilliant. Next is A Short Hike, and it's a really cute, short little game that is just jam-packed with things to do. You play as Claire, and the main idea of the story is that she wants to hike up Hawk Peak. The hike itself is indeed pretty short, as the name of the game suggests, but this little world is just stuffed full of content. The exploration is fantastic, all the characters we'll run into are really entertaining, and you'll find plenty of people to help and secrets to find and things to collect. The game will tell you that it's best played with a controller when you launch, but I stuck with mouse and keyboard and honestly had no issues at all. Everything felt fine. You can also easily rebind your keys to whatever's comfortable for you. One of the really cool things about this game is the wide variety of experiences it offers for whatever kind of gamer you are. If you like to take things slow and search every nook and cranny for every item and secret in the game, it's really enjoyable that way. If you want to try to speed run it, there's a speed run clock you can enable that will stop when you reach the peak. If you wanted to try to make it to the peak with the lowest number of feathers, that would offer a really interesting challenge. If you're someone who likes to 100% games, this one has several achievements that will take you a while to complete, but all seem like engaging tasks. It's a really well made game in that sense. There's sort of something here for everybody. As I mentioned, all the characters are cute and charming and often funny. Again, I laughed a lot while I was playing this one. A lot of funny games in this video apparently. The main story is also pretty touching. It was nice. The music is good here. It has some of the more fun exploring of anything in the video, I'd say. It's a really well done little world. It plays great, even on mouse and keyboard, as I said. It'll take a little getting used to, and on rare occasion, the camera movement will be a little difficult to manage, as it's automatic depending on where you are, so some transitions feel a little weird, but those are very few and far between. This is one that won't necessarily take you very long to beat, but there's so much to do in addition to the actual main story hike that you could get a pretty good amount of hours out of this game, especially if you wanted to get competitive with speedrunning it. It was a really fun experience for me. I definitely think A Short Hike is worth checking out. And last, but certainly not least, we have Night in the Woods. It's a game very heavily driven by the story, and I'll say this is one of those games that really makes you notice the difference between well-written dialogue versus not so well-written dialogue. The way the characters talk to each other in this game is great, and I'm really into the humor. This might be the funniest game in the video. It's also kind of interesting because while it is very much story-driven, I never experienced any super strong hook or anything. With something like Beacon Pines, there are a few things that really hook you early on and you feel like you just have to know what's going to happen. But in Night in the Woods, you're kind of just living this cat girl's life, and for the most part, at least in the first 2 hours, it's relatively uneventful. Her name is May, Emily. She's 20, and she just dropped out of college to move back home. You'll spend the early stages of the game hanging out with your parents, exploring your town and reconnecting with old friends, and chatting with pretty much whoever you like. It's got a really cool style to it, and you'll encounter some light platforming on what, at least in my time, were pretty rare occasions. I also want to make sure I'm being clear here. I really enjoyed my time with this game. I want to be careful that it doesn't sound like I'm describing it as boring, because it's not. The story is just being told a little differently here than I'm used to. There are also a couple of very weird and interesting things that do happen that I assume will become more important later, but it's all feeling very much like a slow burn that perhaps is building up to something much later on. I'm not sure. The world is pretty full and fun to explore, and you encounter little random things to do, like playing your bass guitar in your room, or games on your laptop, stuff like that. From what I've seen so far, I think this game would have made a really good animated movie or even show. The characters are all fun and likable, and again, the dialogue is really well written, and May in particular is really funny to me. Very dry and sarcastic, irreverent humor that just really hits the spot for me, especially in this context apparently. I can definitely see myself coming back to this game. Something about not having an aggressive hook seems to have still hooked me, because I'm very curious about what this game is building to. What story are you being so patient about telling me here? It's very much a cozy game. It feels very artistic in more ways than one. I won't go into much detail about that because I'd rather you discover and interpret everything on your own. It also has stellar reviews on Steam, and that can't be for nothing. All in all, I think Night in the Woods is a really cute, interesting game that seems to slowly dig its claws in, no pun intended, before you even realize it's happened. So if you're looking to kick back, relax, and navigate through a good story at your own pace, Night in the Woods is a fantastic option. And that's going to do it for this video. I hope you found a couple of new games to check out, or maybe got the nudge you needed to try one you've had your eye on for a while. Let me know if you decided to pick any of these up. And seeing as there's no shortage of cozy games, I'll definitely be doing another video on the genre at some point, so leave me some suggestions of games you'd like to see in the next one. If you haven't and you feel so compelled, hit the like button, as that can help get the video out to more people. Subscribe if you wanna, and the algorithm thinks you'll really like the video on the screen right now, so try it out and see if it's right. I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you have a good one, and I'll see you next time.